Hi, I'm Katie. I've chosen Article 28, Right to a Good Education. I now have an opportunity to interview Dr. Jason Price of the University of Victoria about his thoughts on education.
So would you say that many of the world's children are receiving a good education?
I would say that most of the world's children are receiving a very poor education. I think this, at the end of the Universal Declaration, or the decade for universal primary education, where the effort was made to try to provide schooling for all the children internationally, we get into this discussion where we start to equate schooling with education. The one thing that I want us to do is to kind of separate those two things. That often schools do educate, but schools do a lot of other things as well. So internationally, I'm sorry, the question, I kind of lost myself this way. Can you repeat the question one time?
Are many of the world's children receiving a good education?
Are they receiving good education? No, I don't think so. I think that too often our children are educated into a world of greed, a world of violence, a world of consumption. That I worry about, not just what takes place in our schools, but what takes place in terms of the education of our children outside of our schools. And this would be mass media, advertising, marketing, the examples of our celebrity culture. I think that in any culture where we spend, and here I see the benefits of digital technologies in terms of video games, but I'm very, very frightened about a society, and I do believe it's education when we spend hours a day doing it, where we watch so much violence, or even participate in the activation of violence through video games. And I'm very concerned about this nexus of technology and this creation of so many of our young people that spend so much leisure time. And leisure time is time where you're being educated, dedicated to honing their skills as digital warriors or virtual warriors, especially in a time when we have hundreds of people in common-looking industrial installations and factories in the American Midwest operating military drones in the Middle East over Africa that are just like the video games that our children are playing. So no, I'm really concerned about the education received. I don't think it matches the world that we're living in. I think most of the information is students receiving K-12 education is obsolete by the time they get it. I think there's some really great things that are being done by some really wonderful teachers and some wonderful principals, but schools in general are kind of educating in a rearview mirror, that they're educating for a past society and not the society that we're moving towards, where we have the opportunity to share information, to develop intergenerational learning groups, where we can differentiate learning, where you can have virtual field trips, where the classroom, we can turn this into a virtual space and have you do a field trip to the Taj Mahal or Angkor or Mayan ruins and truly experience it in multimodal, multimedia ways. So that we really can't talk about the world's children getting a good education for that, but also for the reason that their own futures, their own desires and inspirations, and their own say and voice is not being heard in the vast majority of the schools that are said to be educating. So I'm disappointed with what we're doing, and I really hope and I really think we do a better job. But there are some really wonderful people working very, very hard to do a lot of the things that we're talking about in schools. And they take you on those field trips. When your teacher have science fairs, when they have speakers coming in, when they have you doing projects, when they have you working outdoors, when they ask you how do you want to be tested for your information, when they're doing those things, they're truly educating you.